Catholic Moments, episode 162, Your Whole Life.
Blooming, finding joy in the journey and hope in the heaven yet to come. Blooming.
Hello and welcome to Catholic Moments. And now, here's your host and my mom, Lisa Hendy.
Well, thank you, Eric, and welcome everyone to another episode of Catholic Moments, the show from CatholicMom.com, where we talk about all things faith, family, and fun. And I have been so busy for the last few weeks that we haven't been talking about it very much. But welcome back to another episode, folks. I greatly appreciate those of you who've written to me to check in and those who've been praying for me. And boy, I have no excuse for no show for the last 2 weeks other than that it has been an incredibly busy time around my home. And I'm sure actually if you're a busy Catholic family like mine, then you find yourself in the same circumstances. But I'm really happy to be back behind the microphone to share with you a terrific show. We've got an interview with special guest Carol Showalter, who will share a book with us, but more importantly, some thoughts on getting ourselves healthy, both in mind, in body, and in spirit. And as always, we have our great cast of contributors. Deacon Tom and Sarah are here this week with some super reflections. But before we start the show, I just wanted to fill you in a little bit on sort of why I haven't been podcasting the last few weeks. If you follow me online on Facebook and Twitter, you'll know that I did do a lot of traveling over the last couple of months, and that sort of came to a head the last few weeks. And my most recent trip was a really wonderful experience to go out to Washington, D.C. with my good friend, Jeff Young, the Catholic foodie, and we were able to speak about Catholic social media at the National Conference of Catholic Women, or the National Council of Catholic Women National Convention. This last week we had a whirlwind trip there, and this is going to be my last traveling weekend of 2010 for book-related and work-related stuff. I've got a couple of personal trips, but this weekend I did it up in style. So basically, I left my home on Wednesday morning and drove down to Los Angeles, hung out in the airport working. I treated myself to the red carpet room. I've never been in there before, and because I was going to be in the airport for several hours, I went ahead and bought myself a day pass and went in there and got a lot of work done. And now that I have seen the promised land, I don't want to wait out with the with the regular people in the regular airport anymore. Boy, it was really fun in the red carpet room. I wish I could do that all the time, but I can't. So anyway, flew to on a red eye overnight to Washington, D.C. Matt Jeff prepared our talk, gave our talk, flew back home on another red eye, traveled over to Ventura for a day-long Advent conference with some religious educators and families down there from the Archdiocese of Los Angeles, drove back to Fresno, slept in my bed, went to Mass with my husband and son, woke up, and then drove to Visalia, California to do a talk on raising faith-filled teens in today's technological climate. So my parenting and internet safety talk that I do, drove back home and collapsed. And that leads you up to this week. So it's been a little bit of a wild ride the last couple weeks. But, you know, the amazing thing about traveling and about going out and meeting people who use the website and listen to the podcast is that even though it's kind of physically tiring to be traveling as much as I have been, it is so emotionally and spiritually uplifting to be someplace like the NCCW where there were literally hundreds of women gathered to talk about their faith, or to be with those families in Ventura who were giving up a Saturday to learn about how they can more readily celebrate the season of Advent with their families. I get so much more than I give in those experiences. And so it's been just a wild ride, but it's also been a very uplifting and fun ride. And hey, I think I'm part gypsy. I love traveling. So, and I love also all the Catholic podcasts that I can listen to while I travel. And I got caught up on some of my favorites. And as you know, if you're a regular SQPN or listener of the StarQuest Production Network, when we flip the calendar for November, we also begin our annual Fun Drive. And with the advent of All Saints Day, we begin to ask for your support in supporting a network that brings you not only Catholic moments, but tons of other great programming. Some of it is very Catholic oriented in nature. Others of it is an introduction to the faith via different cultural programs that we offer. And all of it is uplifting and entertaining and a great thing. But also all of it is supported by 100% by your donations. We really, really, really need people to support the network. And this is the time of the year that you'll hear me inviting you to join me in donating to SQPN.com through the website. I'll have links in the show notes. And don't think that when you donate that this goes into, my pocket directly or whatever. This money is used to support the nonprofit organization. Your donations are tax deductible, and they're greatly needed and greatly appreciated to help do this apostolate that we do of using social media to reach out and to evangelize to people who maybe never have known of Catholicism or who need a little booster shot and some encouragement in their faith walk. So I hope that as you're considering your gifts at this time of the year, you'll consider donating to SQPN.com. Even if it's a small gift, it helps to let us know that the work that we do is important to you. So again, you can join me in donating to SQPN.com and heading over there and subscribing to tons of great Catholic programming. And let's kick off the show now with a message from everyone's favorite online deacon. Here he is, Deacon Tom Fox, with this week's Deacon Moment.
One of the reasons that I love my boss on Catholic Mom and Catholic Moments is that I've come to know that Lisa Hendy has a most tender heart. Just a week ago, my wife and I visited Lisa. I felt such a softness in my heart, and I think I saw it in Lisa's eyes, as we three talked and shared and visited after not one, but 2 masses. I'm an Irishman at heart. I wear my emotions pretty much on my sleeve. This trait has several good points, but on the other side, I can't easily camouflage when I'm not happy. One of my tender sides relates to a column I wrote a year ago on the Catholic Mom website. It's called The Gift of Tears. In the column, I asked if any readers cry in certain situations. I confessed that I can become tender when in proximity to a pregnant mom or a young mother with a baby. I have the same situation when I hear holy hymns or good Christian praise music. A woman named Sally from Pennsylvania actually Googled the topic of tears and found my column. She wrote to me that she can become emotional during the Eucharistic prayers at the Mass or just before she receives Jesus in the Eucharist. A former agnostic named Elizabeth, who isn't Catholic, attends Mass with her boyfriend, and she wrote she often cries when she hears beautiful music in church. And a wonderful feedback came from a lady, Susan, who said that she isn't an emotional person at all. However, she went through a profound conversion experience and came back into the church, and since then she has experienced tender tears of gratitude. She called the tears a very baptismal experience. And Susan, you are exactly right. These tears flush our souls of indifference, and they're a beautiful way of expressing thanksgiving to God for all His gifts. How appropriate to be talking about the gift of tears in November, the month of Thanksgiving. I don't think I've ever heard from any men in response to this column on the gift of tears. Well, whether man or woman, I'd like to hear from you. This is Deacon Tom with prayerful wishes for tender-hearted blessings for you.
Hey, Deacon Tom, thank you so much for that reflection. That column continues to amaze me because I think that the reason people continue to find it is that they share that sense of getting emotional and having those emotions be quite frequently related to the shared joy of being able to share the Eucharist. I know that for me, that happens pretty much almost every Sunday when I see my husband receive the Eucharist. I think I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but Greg, being a convert to the faith, joined the church about 7 years ago. And so it's interesting, my vantage point of watching this at church, because he's involved with our music ministry and he is up on the altar every week playing, and I'm sitting in the pews kind of watching. I see him receive communion, receive the Eucharist, because he does it before the rest of the congregation. He and if Adam's up there playing with him or if Eric's with them, they go to communion first. And it never ceases to choke me up. And actually, I'm getting that way right now, that the joy of being able to see him receive the Eucharist is something that I prayed for so many years. So I understand the gift of tears, what a joy it is, and I understand the gift that you are too, Deacon Tom. It was so nice to see you and Dee when you came to Fresno, and I just wish we could do it once a week. It was so awesome. Twice to go to Mass together in 1 week. What a great thing. But anyway, that's enough raving about Deacon Tom. If you would like to visit Deacon Tom and his lovely wife Dee, you can of course go to his website, deacontomonline.com, or be sure to subscribe to their podcast, catholicvitamins.com, where you'll get a weekly dose of all kinds of things that are very healthy for you. And next up, let's hear from our good friend Sarah Reinhardt, soon to be mommy of 3. We're waiting for that new baby to be born. And Sarah will share this week's reflection on the carrying of the cross. And here she is with this week's Mary Moment.
Hello, my name's Elizabeth.
And my name's Sarah Reinhardt.
It's time for Mary Moment.
There's nothing she can do. She's standing by the side of the road, watching her son carry his cross, and all she can do is pray. What did she say to God in that moment? What cry left her soul as she saw her innocent son, filthy and torn, dragging a cross through the streets of Jerusalem? How did she keep her eyes open, continue to breathe, remain hopeful in the face of the horror before her? My mother's heart goes out to Mary during this mystery. I remember so well the night in January when my 5-year-old appeared to be suffering from a stroke. My husband told me recently that it was his worst nightmare coming true. Our daughter could die. We didn't know. As the ambulance took the 2 of them to Children's Hospital, I called family members and arranged to find someone to watch our younger daughter. Our daughter did not die. In fact, her symptoms were mostly gone by the time she reached the hospital, and her illness is very treatable. That night in January is only a scary memory for us. For Mary, though, following Jesus as he carried his cross, death was a given. How did she keep her hope alive? And how can I do the same? There's a lesson of hope in each of the sorrowful mysteries, and in the carrying of the cross, I see it most clearly in my vocation as wife and mother. I worry so often about the health of my family. We've had some sudden deaths recently, and it's hard not to hold on tighter, to think that I can plan and control, when in fact, God has a far better handle on things than I ever will. Letting go and letting God be the problem solver frees me to do the important work He put me here to do. My work might only be laundry and dishes and writing, with potty breaks and editing squeezed in between, but I can offer it as a prayer. Punctuating my days with prayer and embracing the cross He's helping me carry are really the most important things I need to do.
Are you inspired? Are you inspired? Here we are on Roosevelt Radio, WRBC, The Blaze. Are you inspired?
This is Daniel, the host of All You Inspired here on WLBC The Blaze at Roosevelt University in Chicago. And on this show, we feature various inspirational and Christian music. You can listen to the show weekly on Fridays from 3 to 4 p.m. Once again, that's every Friday from 3 to 4 p.m. Central Time. And along with that, you can also hear meditational reflections by people such as St. Jose Maria Escrivá. Be sure to visit our blog at allyouinspiredshow.blogspot.com. That's the letter R, the letter U, inspiredshow.blogspot.com.
With Dan the Man, are you inspired? With Dan.
Hey, that's our friend Dan in Chicago, and be sure to check out his radio show. And hey, what about having Popple produce your very own promo? That I think I recognize my friends from Popple in that promo. So thanks, Dan, for sharing that. Your show is fantastic, and keep up the great work. And now let's turn to this week's interview. It's my conversation with the author of Your Whole Life, Carol Showalter. Enjoy. Next up on today's episode of Catholic Moments, we're very happy to welcome to the show a special guest, Carol Showalter. Carol is the founder of an organization called 3D, which is a Christian health and nutrition program, and she's the author of a great book entitled Your Whole Life, the 3D Plan for Eating Right, Living Well, and Loving God. Welcome to the show, Carol.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Nice to be with you.
Oh, it's a treat to have you. And I have to say that I've had your book for over a year now, and I've really enjoyed it, and it's helped me to make some healthy choices in my life. And so I'm very happy to have you on the show. But first of all, I'd like for you to start off by telling everybody a little bit more about yourself and your family.
Well, let me tell you that the whole program came out of my own need, Lisa. It wasn't like I sat down and said, all these people out there need a Christian diet program. It was more like stumbling in and out of Weight Watchers for many years and succeeding and failing and succeeding and failing that I kind of pounded the gates of heaven and said to God, you've got to help me. You've got to tie my whole life together and not have this be a problem apart from my spiritual walk with you. So, and it began, I'm not a youngster anymore, but it began way back in the 70s, and it has continued continuously for 40 years. It's never stopped, and it's all oftentimes been by word of mouth. And it's small groups of women gathering together and sharing their needs. And in the beginning, it was everything from diet to reading the Bible to time management. It was all those things before they were popular when the program started.
What an amazing thing that something as timeless as this can, that this started over 35 years ago, and that these are still very real subjects that people struggle with. Do you find that you have people who've kind of gone away from the program and come back to it?
Absolutely, and their children. We'll have calls many, many times. My mom was in this program for many years, and now I'm in it. So it's certainly passed down to daughters and sons and so on. I remember when it first started, Lisa, I sort of smiled at God and said, "You're amazing that you know right where to get us, right where we need some help." And it's not just help with diet, but it's help with knowing what separates us from Him. Mm-hmm. If my attention is always on myself, what I weigh, how I look, what I don't do and do, then I take a lot of attention away from my walk with God. And that's what He's more concerned about is how do I put all this together so that I'm really a better Christian.
So just some of the logistic things when you were starting this, did you start it in a home or at a church? And did you have a friend that you started it with?
Yes, I did. Interestingly enough, Weight Watchers met in our church in Rochester, New York, and that's where I attended. It was sort of like Bible study was going on one end of the church, and Weight Watchers was going on in the other end, and I was in the Weight Watcher class. So I did start it back there in that same church, and got a group of 8 or 10 friends to join me, and like I said, they had all different problems. And we just came together and started out. As the weeks and months went by, we'd say, oh, you know what, we need to do this, or we need to do that. And before you knew it, God had put together a program that touched many, many churches in the community. And so that's how it all began.
And it just spread from there. And what do you think, Carol, is the value of having a group type of an effort to something like this rather than just buying the book on Amazon and going it on your own? Why is that group component kind of important to the process?
I wish it wasn't, Lisa, because over the many years we've tried really hard to make the material something that one person can do. They can read the book. They can study the scripture references. They can take the hints from the book of what to do. But I think support, Lisa, is such a key. When this first began, the only other support group was Alcoholics Anonymous was popular then. You know, now in this day and age, we have all kinds of groups. It isn't that they can't do it alone, but I just think in our Christian walk we need each other. And that's why it seems to be more anointed, more successful when people do it as a group.
And I don't want to scare our listeners off who don't have access to a group in their neighborhood, but how does somebody go about if they would want to become a part of 3Z and start living this Your Whole Life program? How can they find out about if there's a group meeting near their home?
Well, they can go on the web and see the website, and there are even groups that have been held right on the web. There was a group in progress just in the last few weeks that was just 10 or 12 people from different states doing it together. So the support is available on the Your Whole Life website and Facebook and so on. And they can always call the 1-800 number, 1-800-451-5006, and ask for Treva, who works with the groups all around the country. And Lisa, I don't want to discourage individuals because anything they get out of that book, a simple Bible verse, be still and know that I am God, is the first verse that we suggest people memorize. And if that's all they do is learn that verse to be still and know that He is God, it's a successful effort for the individual.
Well, I think, Carol, you're a good example of the fact that a lot of people kind of think about weight loss in terms of, you know, whatever the next big event is that they're trying to get into a dress for a wedding or they have a reunion or something like that. So, but I think I can look at your life and see that you've been at this for a long time and that you've made it a part of your lifestyle. And so it seems to me like that's why it's so important that you recognize the little baby steps that people make and not just, you know, in terms of the amount of pounds that are lost or something like that.
Exactly.
What are some words of encouragement you might give for somebody who's out there that's just really frustrated and stuck and they've tried things in the past and it hasn't worked and they're almost to the point of despair over this?
I would immediately say, and my co-author, Maggie Davis, who's a dietitian nutritionist, we would both say loudly and clearly, stop dieting.
Okay.
Immediately stop dieting and start, and don't look backwards, look forward. Don't think about what's behind you, how many times you've lost weight and gained weight. Try to forget that and take today as a chance to make some good choices in your life. And the good choices can be as simple as the kind of bread you're eating. Maggie has a book coming out right now teaching a lot of new things. I'd love to have you do a podcast with her sometime. But I just encourage people to just one step at a time. Today's the day to make some good choices. And tonight when you go to bed, if there's some bad ones, you confess them. And tomorrow you look forward to making better choices.
I love that. And I love the fact that you're still at this and that you're an example for people that, you know, like I said, that this is a lifelong pursuit. And just as our faith life should be a daily recommitment, a commitment to your health, I think is really important. Our guest again has been Carol Showalter, and Carol is the author of this great book, it's entitled Your Whole Life, the 3D Plan for Eating Right, Living Well, and Loving God. 3 very important components there. And Carol can be reached through her website at 3dyourwholelife.com. We will have links in our show notes, and we'll have the 1-800 number in case you'd like to reach out and get some support too for your journey of loving God and loving yourself a little bit more. Carol, before we let you get back to work, are there any closing thoughts that you'd like to share with our listeners?
No, just you used the word journey, and I'd say just remember this life is a journey, and this part of your life is just a journey. You don't have to succeed. There's no such thing. You're on a journey to wholeness in body, soul, and spirit, and just keep walking.
Well, I want to thank you so much for your time today, but most importantly for the great example that you're setting and for the friendship that you're offering to so many men and women across the country who've been a part of this with you. And I do ask our listeners to come on over to CatholicMoments.com to check out the resources that we'll have there for you to learn a little bit more about 3D. And thank you again to our guest today, Carol Showalter.
Thank you, Lisa.
Well, thanks again to Carol. We'll have links in the show notes for you to get a hold of her book and to check out the website. And it was really fun talking with her. And boy, we're reaching that time of the year where I think it's more and more important to focus on healthcare. You know, a lot of us, we think about nutrition after the holidays, but I sort of have gone back to counting calories in the weeks leading up to Advent and Christmas. I know that it's a time of the year that it's really easy to overindulge and to get short on sleep and to not really take care of ourselves the way that we should. So Carol's book has been a big help to me, and I hope you'll check it out. And if you are somebody who struggles with this issue, I'd love to hear from you. Or if you've got it figured out, if something has worked well for you and you've made some changes in your life. I know that a lot of our listeners listen also to a podcast that's put together by SQPN, formerly called the Biggest Loser podcast. And, you know, I'll admit that I don't know what the new name of Father Roderick's show is, but Father Roderick Von Hogan and Cliff from GSPN do a great show that looks at the topics of pursuing a balanced and healthy life, personal productivity, and sort of making it all work. And it's really a very motivational show. So I'll put some links in the show notes to that as well. I found that a great help when I need a little kickstart. So the last part of the show that I want to share with you this week is some updates that I shared on the radio this week. Some of our listeners may know that I do a regular segment on EWTN's The Sunrise Morning Show, and it's really great to be over there every week with Brian Patrick, and we really focus on that segment about technology and its impact on our families. And so this week, in preparation for that, I always save all the links that I think are relevant. And this week, boy, it was a big week for geeks. So I thought I'd share a few of these stories with you. And I'll link again to this particular post over at the CatholicMom.com blog in case you're interested in any of these topics. And some of them are old news by now, but it's just great to do a roundup at the end of the week about some of the tech news and geek news that's impacting on our families. The first article that I linked to was the big announcement from Facebook this week and from Mark Zuckerberg about the impact of Facebook messaging. Some people have called it a email killer, but it really doesn't look like that. It looks more like a way to integrate communications into your social networking. And I think this is really going to appeal to young people like my sons who don't regularly check in with their Google Gmail, but are on Facebook at least once a day. So Facebook messaging, we'll be keeping an eye on that. It prompted me to just say to parents, double check and see if your kids have their cell phones linked to Facebook. It's one of the things that Facebook does ask for, and you can obviously opt not to get that and give that information out. But I noticed that more and more of my son's friends have their cell phone numbers listed on their Facebook profiles, and that just makes me a little nervous as a parent. So check that out. The next article that we talked about was Bishop Herzog's address. He's the Bishop of Alexandria, Louisiana, and he's a member of the USCCB, the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops Communications Committee, and he delivered an important message, I think, this week to the bishops at their fall assembly about the rising popularity of social media and about the fact that we as church need to be embracing this and using these tools. He encourage the bishops to give their staffs what they need to go ahead and use social media. And it was just a really, really great address. This is a topic that I talk on a lot, so you know I'm interested in it. But if you want to see the entire article, just click through on the links to my post and you can read the address itself. And again, it was a really great, I think, discussion that's happening at the highest levels of our church here in the United States. Another bit of geek news this week is that the Parents Television Council, PTC, released a report called Untangling the Web of Internet Video. And basically, Parents Television Council was reporting on the fact that many parents may think that it's safer to have their kids watch television programming online, but that indeed their kids are at the risk of being viewing content that's not necessarily appropriate, getting in advertising messages there, and parental controls are limited in those places too. So be sure to check out that report from the Parents Television Council. And the last little bit of geek news that I shared. It's funny, this thing sometimes seems like a little bit of a joke to people, but it's the risk that we run by using cell phones. And an article that appeared in this week's New York Times that talked about the risk of radiation exposure and cancer risks when we use cell phones close to our brains or near other parts of our body by storing them all day long in pockets and things like that. So check that link out. And the bottom line that they said was, if you have a little kid, try to keep them from using the cell phone for extended hours. And also, if you're a pregnant woman, don't store your cell phone anywhere near your abdomen area. I think the same would hold for, this really made me think about my sons and the fact that they carry around cell phones turned on in their pants pockets all day. So I'll have to think a little bit about that one. I won't paint too vivid a picture of that, but check through. You can check out that report over at CatholicMom.com and click on the links to the New York Times article. Well, we're running out of time as usual for this week's show. I promise that it won't be 3 weeks before you get your next episode of Catholic Moments. But in the meantime, I do hope you'll consider calling and leaving us a voice feedback message. You can call our feedback line anytime at 206-339-9272. We have a Facebook group for Catholic Moments. It's facebook.com/Catholic Moments. Or you can follow me, Lisa Hendey, Hendey, at Facebook or Twitter. I love to be friends with you in those places. And in the meantime, let me just put in a little plug for the Handbook for Catholic Moms. If you're looking for Christmas gifts for special women in your life, and you might consider this as a gift for your child's teacher or the religious ed teacher at your school, or just anyone that you know that might be in need of a little bit of nurturing, you can get a copy of the Handbook for Catholic Moms, Nurturing Your Heart, Mind, Body, and Soul. It's available at your local Catholic bookstore or on Amazon or other Catholic retailers like Catholic Company and Aquinas and more. And we have links over at CatholicMom.com for that. As we close out the show, I do love to hear from you, so drop me an email anytime or give a call once more to that feedback line, 206-339-9272. And until we next meet, I wish you and yours all the best. God bless everyone. Bye-bye.
Catholic Moments is sponsored by CatholicMatch.com, the leading Catholic singles community. Being single can be a challenge. Catholic Match helps make it a little easier. To get started today, visit CatholicMatch.com/Lisa.
SQPN, leading the way in Catholic new media.